after so long, Yahya, we got to discuss. You're saying that, then I'm a monkey's uncle. Now we were saying, we were having a typey discussion, because I was saying in Quran 1886 it says the sun sets in the muddy pool, and you were not happy with me saying that, and you were going to tell me off about it.
Yeah.
Face to face.
Catch you
What
another
I'm
thing.
saying about it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealing the message that the warrior himself have seen the sun setting, as when we go to for example to the shore, we can see the sun setting down in the sea, and the fact is there's other verses of the Quran talk about it, that like Surah Yasin, that the moon and the sun, they are floating and swimming in orbit, and they don't set in the stream. But the verses about the warrior, as he's seeing it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned it, and there is two kind of verses in the Quran, verses which basic decisive verses, and another one is similar, it carry two meanings, and this is one of them. Will you allow me just to pick up, because I write it down?
I'll just say one point and then I'll let you go, just
Okay.
to respond to that. Here it says 1886 of the Quran, until, and this is Allah speaking, until when he reached the setting of the sun. Now, this is not the point where it's talking about setting yet.
Okay.
Just when he reached.
Yeah.
So Allah is saying he did reach the place of
Carry
the sun
on,
setting.
carry on.
Now, firstly, my point about that would be, that clause would be that the sun does not set in a place, so you cannot reach a place where the sun sets. That's the first point.
Okay.
Then Allah goes on to say he found it setting in a body of dark water. So Allah is telling us that Dulkarnain, the warrior, found the sun setting in a body of water. Again, that is not possible.
Yeah,
So that's my next question.
This is what I said.
And the third clause is, and Allah is telling us, and he found the sun nearer people. Well, the sun is no nearer one people than another.
Exactly.
So again, that's the third clause, which is problematic. And so that was my argument.
Yeah.
It isn't actually correct. If Allah is talking about what he's saying, Allah is telling us what he knows, not what Dulkarnain is seeing.
This is when I
don't understand very well. I'm sorry.
This is what I said, because in chapter 3, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying the Quran being revealed with some basic decisive verses tell you the exact, and the other one, and those people who inclined to disbelief, they will rely on the similar, the one not decisive. So what do? We go back to the decisive, which Allah
use them as the
subhanahu wa ta'ala
basis.
talk about the sun and its orbit, and the sun. This is why I want to go there to give you the exact.
Oh, I'm not going. Don't worry. I'll be here when you come back.
No,
But
I'm gonna get it from there.
The point about decisiveness versus non-decisive verses is, I mean, the Quran itself doesn't speak of these two kinds of verses, though, does it?
Yeah, it does.
Where does the Quran say there's decisive and indecisive?
Chapter 3. Open it. Open chapter 3.
And that speaks of two kinds of verses.
Yeah, and give it to me. I will.
Go on. Fine.
I was going to say, you got an unfortunate translation.
It's a pocket one. It's very handy for carrying around, though.
Yeah, but it doesn't match the Arabic, what you just read.
I do know it's not exactly one that we would say is the best to use for accuracy.
Yeah.
But it is handy and pocket sized.
Yeah.
And so I'm very practical.
That's the miracle. God keep it as in Arabic, so it's not become million of Bibles. One Quran.
Yeah, that's another argument, isn't it? We're not getting onto that yet.
Sorry, friend, I'm English, so how can I understand it? I've got to rely on you.
You sent down to you, Mohammed, the book.
Translated.
By who? You're the same Muslims like you.
The foundation of the book and others.
Not the
By who?
As for those in whose hearts
They
is
are.
deviation,
These are all translations.
they will follow that.
They're your Muslim
specific,
translations.
seeking
No,
discourse
okay,
and seeking
okay,
but you can
interpretation
make it- you can
suitable
make
to
it
them,
many
and no one knows its
translations
true
until you get the
interpretation
right
except
thing.
Allah.
So that
For
God
those
keep
firm
it
in knowledge
the
say
same
we
word
believe in
in
it.
Arabic,
All
so
that
you
is
can
from our
translate
Lord,
it
and no one
in
will be reminded except
in the
those with
way
understanding.
which
That's
is
very
really
interesting.
logical.
So we
So
have two
what-
kinds of.
what-
You mean,
what do we do
you mean
to,
the way that
to
most of you
remove the
Muslims
doubt
like
of
it?
the
Anyway,
verses
God
which
tell
is
us
not
about
clear?
people
We
who
go
doesn't
to
believe.
other verses
So that means
because
they have
Quran
ears they
explain
don't want to
itself.
hear.
And
They have
there's
eyes they don't want to
another,
see.
please, brother.
That's
There's
so-
another verses which talk about that the sun itself floats in orbit and does not set. We all know does not set. But according to us, because this is why I give the example if you are by the sea and we look, we can see that it's going down, but for us the way we see it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why this difference is a test for the believer and non-believer, because the non-believer will rely on the one which doubtful to back themselves, and the one which are believers, they will seek knowledge from other texts.
I understand the point you're making. However, the question is, who decides which verses are precise and which are unspecific? Because here's what I'm getting at.
Nice.
A precise verse will be this.
Yeah.
You shall not kill an innocent person. That's precise.
Okay.
It is also precise to say, you shall kill whoever you feel like. They're both precise, but they contradict. I'm not saying the Bible, the Quran says that. Now, the statement that the sun is in orbit is a precise statement. The statement that Dulkarnian saw the sun setting in a place in a muddy pool is specific as well. My problem is, an unspecific verse would be, one should be nice. Full stop. That's not specific about who you should be nice to. So we have seen, it seems to me, two precise statements. The precise statement about the orbit and the precise statements that I've quoted about Dulkarnayn and the sun setting. So though this is extremely interesting, it doesn't resolve the question since they're two precise statements. And then the question further is, as I said, who is to decide which are specific and unspecific anyway?
Now you can rely on the intellect to differentiate between, is it possible that God say two verses contradicting itself, one decisive that the sun is floating in a specific orbit, and does it confirm that the sun set in the muddy? So the muddy one is not decisive, and this is why we need to take the one which more logical and go according to the sound judgment of the intellectual people, because Quran wants you to reflect upon what you're reading, not to accept anything. And as we mentioned, that God telling us about the man reaching the sunset of a place and he see it set, but to be honest, that when he reached the place of the sunset, he see it sitting in muddy or water or behind the mountain or anything. But the fact is that the sun is far away from certain place, so there's no logic to say they're sitting, because the other verses continues when he reached where is raised, where it's risen, he found the people have no boundary between themselves and they. So there was no mountain, it's like a flat place. And as you said, if the sun is too close to those people, it will burn them. And we know that the sun is far away from us. So just to reflect upon this, and this is the test for the believer and non-believer to how to approach this kind of verses.
Well, I actually think that the point about the sun, you reach the place where the sun is nearer people who have no shelter. The mountains wouldn't be the shelter because the sun at noon is directly above everybody.
We are talking about.
So I don't think that helps these verses. To me, these verses on their own are irrational. They're mistaken, erroneous. That's to me. You've given me the verse about the orbit which is not as irrational, because you can speak about the sun being in an orbit, but you can speak about the sun going in an orbit across the sky. Doesn't to me rule out the possibility of a primitive people thinking it nonetheless sets in a place at the base of the earth.
Okay.
But the verse that you took me to about specific and unspecific verses, I think that there is a problem with what you've taken me to, that Allah would say there are some verses which are unspecific in his book, which is his final book. If it's his final book, we need all the verses to be precise.
No.
And not unspecific.
But
that doesn't apply, I think, to these verses we're talking about anyway.
Okay. The book itself, as I mentioned, is a test for believer and non-believer, because the believer will read the verse and reflect upon it, and the non-believer will read the verse and take it the way his desire and his intellect want.
Yes.
So to deny the truth. This is why I said I will actually, when you upload the video, I will write in the comments and try to explain myself better more. I don't know if I have it. If I have it, because today I was looking at it and I note down the verse is talking about the sun orbit, the moon orbit, and that they are floating and each in its own orbit, because they don't join together, the sun and the moon. And we know the movement of the sun of the moon actually brings night and day, and it's specific for us to reflect upon the time as well, because we rely on the sun for the day and the moon at the end, the calculation of days.
Yes, but you know, when you said this is a test for the believer and the unbeliever, but there is a possibility, of course,
which is
that the unbeliever has realised by looking at the book that it contains these problems, and that the unbeliever is right and the believer is in fact ignoring the problems and glossing over them. Now, it doesn't mean that the Muslim is in fact the wrong one. It may be that the non-Muslim is the wrong one. But you see, the fact that the book says it's a test for the unbeliever and the believer doesn't mean that the unbeliever is the one who's in the wrong.
Fair enough. With this, there's God and the Quran talk about many different topics. It's not only talking about this issue. So if, for example, somebody wants to deny this about the sun, there's God talk about, for example, when for example, if a person going in high altitude, he will be out of breath, and 1400 years ago, people would not know that when you go up higher in the sky, you will be out of oxygen, and it will be stressful for you. So talk about, for example, the sea and its inner wave, and there's darkness over darkness. Even the Prophet, peace upon him, never sailed over. And talk about how God creates us, where we come from, and that we during the stages we go and whoop in the darkness till we go out as a baby, know nothing, and we grow up and learn.
You know, those who look at this find the Arabic a bit ambiguous, and that translations into modern English or French or German then put in there words which support the idea of there being scientific information in the Quran, whereas there's no indication that Muslims had a scientific advance over non-Muslims from the alleged science in the Quran over the centuries. But when we look at, say, for example, the idea that the embryo passes through various stages, many see that as reflecting Galenic science and not modern science. So, for example, take the idea that there's that the human embryo goes through the stage of being a blood clot, the alaka. This is not. There's no stage where the embryo is a blood clot.
What I'm saying is, like, first we need to know that the Quran it's not a medicine or medicine book, and it gives you a hint to reflect upon, and it's telling you, like, you need to go to the origin, that the sperm actually is coming from a fluid gushing from the backbone of the man.
I'm glad you raised
and
this.
yes, and I have actually a link that which prove that it's all related. The backbone of the person, it's responsible about the formation of the individual, and I will pass you the link as well.
That would be really interesting because the general view is that the fluid is created in the testes of the male,
yes,
nowhere near the backbone,
and
so and everything I've read doesn't give an indication that it comes from the fluid that creates the sperm is in the backbone. So I'll wait for your information.
I will pass
on
you
this.
the link because I find it very interesting, because when people talk about that we are collected from the backbone of a man and come, by the way, when in the Arabic word we say like he have weak back. If he, for example, he have early ejaculation, and some people maybe they can last for 15 minutes. Some people they have premature ejaculation, and we say that he is like weak back.
I've never heard that phrase, but I'll let you know those phrases.
But this is what I'm saying, and it makes me reflect as well, because anyways, the link is very useful because it is scientific related study about the relation between the bones and the formation of the body as a whole. Anyway,
Yahya, this is fascinating because of course I've not read everything that Muslims say about science in the Quran, nor have I read everything that people who've contradicted that who say. But at the moment, you'll be an interesting source for me. At the moment, I don't believe a word of it, but I'm open to be interested in what you have to say. But there's funny things as well. There's funny things that we can discuss, not just heavy stuff. You know how in the Quran, chapter 2, verse 282, it says that a woman, when she gives evidence in court, should have another woman to back that evidence up. Now, when I say that's funny, I only say it's serious, but I only say it's funny in the sense that these are most interesting things, especially in our times. What would you say about that? Do they need other women, whereas we men don't need other men to back our evidence
one
up?
man and two women, it says. Because if you read the context, it says if one woman she forget, the other one might remind her. Yes. So
we could all benefit from that. There was men as well.
But
women forget more.
Accordingly, a man always it seems that he is in a position of, as the Bible says, that he is the one who leads.
Yes, the Bible does say yes. He's
and
the head.
He's the head of the woman.
Yes, in marriage.
In marriage and everything, actually, the man is the head of women. And Quran, by the way, makes them as equal partner, but give more. As he's a head, he is the one who have to be the breadwinner and the one who are responsible for everything as a provider. And this is the difference between a man and a woman. For example, no woman will come and ask the family to marry her husband, but a man will bring his family to the family of a woman and ask for her hand. It's never the other way around. The man is always...
You and I would not be in disagreement about the modern world in that sense. However, because as I say in marriage the man is the head of the woman, and father's the head of his sons and daughters and his family. But I was talking about the court situation.
If a woman witnessed a crime,
evidence,
she couldn't witness it on her own.
No,
this is what we're talking about. What we're getting into, the implications. If a woman has another woman, that can count as valid evidence. But if she's on her own, the point is that wouldn't count validly. Whereas a man's evidence on his own would. And although a man could be the head of his wife, I don't see how that means that a woman's evidence isn't equal to a man's in court.
The context here is about when there is a specific deal being struck between two people. If there is no more than one woman and one man, it will be accepted. But if there is other women, it's better to have two women instead of one. This is when you are signing, for example, about let's say about you're buying a property, and you come to place to كاتب عدل, we call it, the one who writes the contract between them. If there's only one man, it will be accepted as one man. If there's only one woman, it will be accepted as one woman. But it's better if there are two, because they are equal of one man.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
if though you've got a situation where you've got well, it says in here one man or two women.
Yeah.
Now, I still don't understand. You could take Khadija, Muhammad's first wife,
Yeah.
a commercial woman. She
Yeah.
knew her stuff.
Yeah.
How could it ever be the case that some man who's just maybe an ignorant person could have his evidence worth more than hers on her own in any situation?
Okay.
Khadija was a woman who surely would have a great deal of weight in her evidence compared to any other man.
Thank you for saying that. Actually, why was the Quran revealed during 23 years and come with set of rules? Before this set of rules, everything is possible, as you said, because Khadija, she is a woman aware of her business. She is twice widow, and then she married, and the Prophet, peace upon him, during 23 years. And this is why the rule of the Quran, it comes during this time, and when the set of rules was done, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Today I have perfected your religion, and I accept the religion of Islam, submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as your religion. And in the book, God talked about a lot of rules, inheritance, talaq, about for example, if somebody kills somebody intentionally, what is the punishment? If somebody kills somebody unintentionally by mistake, what's the rule about it? And from this aspect, everything is being detailed as according to Sharia of the Quran.
Yeah, I'm aware, yes.
I'm
But
sorry,
then the
I
question
have
is, well, let me just finish the point with the
add
gentleman.
something.
The point is, though, that you could get other Khadijas after the time of Muhammad.
Okay.
They would be in a position where, in principle, because
Okay.
they're women,
Okay.
their evidence would be inferior to that of a man's,
Okay.
who may not have the mental acumen or the commercial ability of those women. And so it seems strange, seems irrational, in fact, that you would have a verse in the book from God, the eternal book,
Okay.
that would say that it's a man or two women. If it said, just look at the person, look at the quality of the person, as we do in our laws, our courts here, and judge from the quality of the person what the weight of their evidence is,
Okay.
not to do with their sex.
Okay.
That would be more rational, but the Quran says because of the sex you make a differentiation between the weight of the evidence, and that doesn't seem sensible.
Actually, you know, from the beginning, when God He create the male, and from the male come the woman. So the woman never as equal as the man. And according to the Bible, according to the Quran, till now, look all around the world. I know there's plenty of women who are maybe more wise and more powerful and more accurate in their judgment from men. But look around the world. Who are ruling the world but men? You
And
know,
that's partly because we have the
Yeah,
testosterone,
that-
and we will push forward.
you know, the way I understand it, to be honest, when I look at the verses, that the women are always short of of a man's state, because women, by the way, women, they rely more on the emotion, their judgment of, for example, if a woman she's in a judge position, she always looks more merciful in her judgment than a man, and this is not perfectly right according to God. And women, they have, for example, their menstruation period, they have to abstain from an emotional, they are stressed, and because of their period, of their the kind of emotions they go through, they are not like us. And the fact is, we men differ from women, the way we approach everything in life.
Of course, you're absolutely right. We haven't finished though, it's alright, we haven't finished. But the thing is, we say, I know it's okay, we will talk.
No, I'm just saying,
I will talk to you,
why does it confuse? Why does it female?
I will talk to you.
Adam, why is
I will talk to you.
Great, not,
I was going to say that the born again Christians and us, some things we differ on, but one thing we have in common is the belief that, say that when St. Paul says in Christ Jesus there's neither male nor female, slave nor free, Jew nor Gentile, it doesn't mean there are no differences. Of course there are Jews and Gentiles and males and females. But what the point is getting at is that fundamentally in Christ we are not having an inequality in certain aspects. So we know, for example, that there are differences, like men have all this testosterone and we can be more violent than women.
Yeah.
And men rule, as you say, because of our the male character. It's more inclined to push forward and dominate than the female character. But none of this means, though, that a woman is less able to be a witness in a court than a man. In fact, I would say this, that if you look at when women are arguing with men in relationships, women can often out-argue men. They've got the gift of women have the gift of the gab when it comes to arguments with men. Look at this woman here, and
that's my soul.
And it's because, well, who knows why it is, but many married men would say this. Women can observe a lot more than men in relationships. They hear more than men in some ways. What's going on and what's happening in the relationship. Certainly, I think now in England, more women are qualifying as lawyers than men. So all in all, what I'm getting at is that women are splendid candidates for being on juries, for being witnesses, and I would say for being judges as well. Because I don't think there's any sign that they're more sympathetic than the male judges, or less inclined to punish severely than the male judges. So I still have a problem here with this. Maybe we just have to have that disagreement, and that's difference, you know.
To be honest,
I'd say the gospel is more rational on this point than the Quran. But we obviously diverge. It happens.
you know, I read the Bible and I know how the Bible look at women. Even the Bible, if you go to Leviticus, you will see that in Leviticus the man is always above, and according always women, she's half what men worth in case of dying or whatever, you know. And women always, you know, according to the Bible, the women even not allowed to speak in the churches, while men are always the dominant factor, and always, like God chose, you know, all his prophets and messengers, they are all male, and the women always,
we have actually, you know, in the Old Testament we have judges like Deborah.
You know, the degree, how God put it, that the degree of a man over a woman is the degree of responsibility more, and he is the one who are to look after them and to provide them and to secure for them.
And these are things you and I can agree about.
We agree about.
Some things we agree, some things we disagree about.
I don't think we are disagreeing on the matter of which is harmful, because you know, for example, my woman rely on me to certain duties. I cannot, for example, look after the children. I cannot. I'm not that good. Maybe I'm good in and hard work building or something, the women are not.
It's teamwork, isn't
yeah,
it? Different
teamwork,
strengths.
but but she have her own. For example, I have my own. You're not going to see my woman. She's going to be mechanic and look after the car.
Well, actually, no, they can
but
though,
they
if they
can
give
do.
the chance.
There's always exception, but the general, we men are physically stronger. Mentally, we might be stronger because they rely on the emotion. Most of them, majority. There are some women you might find odd. They are better even than men. For example, like. The Prime Minister of Germany, for almost 30 years, she ruled, and she's a fantastic woman. Sometimes.
Elizabeth. Okay, I have one question. I'm sorry, I just have.
Go on, so you wait. I know you
I want to, and I'm just not judge you, but I'm just saying.
No, go on.
Why God doesn't create first Eve and then create Adam from Eve? First, second thing, why God always sends prophet male, not female? Why Mary doesn't give birth female rather than male?
Okay,
this is
good three questions, and in fact, from what we were discussing, you might gather that we agree on many things.
Female and male, that's what I understand. I'm sorry about my English.
No, you're
That's
fine.
I understand you just said Quran.
I was just focusing on that particular verse about witnesses, and we expanded it to talk about a whole range of other things. But he's asked this question, well, God, yes, made the male, and the woman came after the male. So and God sets up a hierarchy, as Yahya was saying. The man is the head of the wife, as in our religion too. So that's a fact. And then Jesus is born a male of Mary, because and the prophets are male almost exclusively. So we can say that. In fact, I said almost exclusively because in our Bible we have a woman called Judith, and we have judges like Deborah. So there are women prominent in the Bible here and there, but it's basically a male leadership. That's a fact. Because God has set up things like this. Men have these roles. Yeah, but I wasn't denying. We weren't really disagreeing on an awful amount of that. Our point of focus was the point in the Quran where it says that a woman's evidence requires another woman to support it, whereas a man's evidence does not require that. And I was saying that I thought that was not rational. And in Christianity, a woman's evidence stands on its own, just as a man's evidence stands on its own. The sex of the witness doesn't matter.
By the way, there's a lot of matter in Quran where it says it needs two witnesses, two male, or one male or two female. So one male, he might, for example, not enough sometimes, unless they are, for example, if they are in a place and they didn't find somebody to write the contract for them, they can write it between themselves. Even if there's one he cannot write or read, the witness will be God between them. And it depends about the situation, and God makes the rule easier for everyone, because he knows that we human, we can forget with the time, and this is why if for example you ask me for 100 pounds and you tell me, and let's say 1 year time I'm gonna give it to you, and so for example I might give it to you, and God say write it down even if it's small, unless it's between, you are partner and trader. So the rule is to conserve and preserve each one a right, and none of one person eats the other person right. This is why there's this set of rules. And
I think that Islam has developed contract law, and Sharia is an extremely sophisticated and developed system of law. As is the same Western development of law through canon law, bringing in Roman law. These are all very developed systems. my arguments are with certain things. I mean, on the women issue, we, for example, take issue with polygamy, you know?
Yeah.
Because we believe that as the beginning, it's one man for one woman.
Yeah.
And then because man went wrong, we ended up with deviations like polygamy. But they are not meant to be forever, because that bond between the man and his woman is to be...
Israelites will return to take down Islam.